Hi there, I'm Shannon Harton, Associate Broker with the Harton team at Nest Realty in Richmond, Virginia. Thanks again for joining me for the Richmond Nest Show. Today I want to talk a little bit about advice for buyers putting together competitive offers. We're getting into the spring market, and if this spring is anything like last spring and the spring before even, it's going to be pretty hectic, very competitive, especially in the center city area. The Fan Museum District, even some of the old neighborhoods, Westover Hills, Bellevue, the near West End, things are going to be hot. Things will move fast, multiple offers in very many situations. So we're often asked by our buyers, what's the best way to put together a really competitive offer so that we can win this house under the best terms for us? So I want to give you 5 pieces of advice. Now these are strategies that have worked well in some combination. Doesn't take all 5 in every case. So number 1, the most important piece of advice I think when you're making an offer on a house is offer the right price. Now if the list price is, for example, $500,000, many buyers, a certain personality type probably, really wants to feel like they got a bargain or feel like they didn't overpay by offering full price. Sometimes they'll just want to go in low and see what happens. In a competitive situation, that's almost certain doom. If the price is $500,000, let us do some research and tell you if that's the right price. And if that is substantiated by market data, then don't consider going below that. You will not get the house. Offer full price if that's the right price. In fact, if that seems like it might be the low end of the possible values, we can use something called an escalation clause, which says, yeah, we'll offer you full price, but we'll also go up to, say, $510,000, maybe in $1,000 increments, not to exceed $510,000. To compete with other offers, and we want to see that competitive offer. We're not just going to hop straight to that high price. Show us the competitive offer, we'll beat it by $1,000. So that's one good way to at least make sure you don't get beat on price. Number 2 is consider an as-is offer rather than the more conventional get it under contract, do an inspection, come back and negotiate some repairs or credits. Instead, give the seller some peace of mind knowing that we're not going to be nickel and diming them 2 weeks after going under contract, coming back and asking for $500 for this, $150 for that. Instead, offer an as-is contract, which essentially says, Mr. Seller, I'm not going to come back and ask you for more money off or ask you to do repairs. I'm just going to inspect, see if there's anything earth-shaking that I can't live with, and then I'll either move forward with the contract or cancel it, and I'll get out of your hair. Lets the seller know that this is a pretty firm contract, that they know what they're going to be netting at the end of the day, and makes them feel much better about the offer. Keep in mind, you're still protected. As is does not mean that you're going to take the risk of buying a house without knowing what's hidden behind the blinds. We're still going to make sure you inspect, kind of a cardinal rule of ours. Every buyer inspects every house. And you still reserve the right, if you find a cracked foundation, if you find out that the roof is about to fail, you can get out of the contract, run for the hills, get your deposit back. But it still it makes for a pretty strong offer if you say, Mr. Seller, I'm not going to come back and nickel and dime you. The deal's the deal. Number 3, offer a deal with as little financing as possible. Now, lots of buyers have their hands kind of tied with this. You've only got as much money in the bank as you've got. But if you've got enough money for a 20% down payment, then offer 20% down payment instead of offering something with like 95% financing just so you can keep that money in the bank. Because especially in spring season when there are lots of buyers out there, there's bound to be at least one cash offer on the table. Cash is hard to compete with. But if you can make a great offer in other ways and then offer the best financing you can swing, then that can be a leg up. If you can pay cash without, missing a meal, then the cash offers are awfully hard to compete with again. Another, kind of on a related note to the financing question, is the appraisal contingency. If you've got the extra cash to risk waiving the appraisal contingency, then that is one more peace of mind for the seller. What that essentially means is if you offer $510,000 for the house and it appraises for $500,000, the bank is only going to loan against that $500,000, which means you may have to make up a little bit of difference depending on your loan program, may have to make up the 20% of that extra $10,000 difference. So it could wind up being hundreds or even a few $1,000s extra you have to bring to the table if it does not appraise to the full amount, but it will not let you out of the contract if it doesn't appraise. And that's to the seller benefit. Another way to make your offer a little bit stronger by, again, waiving the appraisal contingency. Number 4 on my list of advice for strong offers is being really flexible on the closing date. Now, you probably have an ideal date to close for you. Maybe you're coming out of a lease and you would like to close and move in within a few days of the end of that lease. Or maybe you've got your home under contract. It's going to close on this date. You'd like to have a back-to-back closing and close that same day or the day after, move in immediately. That would be convenient for you as the buyer. But what's convenient for the seller? It can make the offer that much more appealing if you'll kind of center the whole plan around their life, their needs. Part of that is by me calling the listing agent, finding out what is best for the seller. When would your folks love to close? And then make it that date. In fact, even leave it a little bit flexible. The other side of the closing date is the occupancy date. The two are not necessarily the same. We can close on Friday and not take occupancy until the next Monday. We can close on the 15th of the month and not take occupancy till the end of the month. That would be extremely convenient for many sellers. If you can let them stay in the house even rent-free for some extra time, to have time to move in and out of their old house into their new house. Sellers love that. That can be some extra gravy in the contract for them. So being flexible on closing and occupancy dates is number 4. Number 5 is kind of a tried and true strategy that sometimes works out, sometimes doesn't seem to make a whole lot of difference. But in a super competitive environment where everything can count, writing a love letter of sorts to the seller can be what puts you over the top. We've had lots of buyers super excited about a house, really don't want to lose it, and they'll sit down just on the evening we're writing an offer and talk to the seller, person to person almost, through this letter, saying, we love this house, we love what you've done with it, we love the neighborhood, we're particularly excited about walking our dog Fluffy around the block, or our kids, Johnny and Susie, growing up in that backyard, going to the neighborhood school, we can really see our family growing up here, etc., etc., etc. Those little touches can really appeal to a seller, because sellers love their house too. They want somebody who's going to love it as much as they have. And if you can convince them that you're that perfect buyer, in addition to the right price, the right closing, everything else, that you're the right buyer, they want you to have the house, then that can put you over the top in a competitive situation. We've even seen cases where that letter saves money and they pick a lower offer over the higher offer just because of the love letter. So that's my 5 tips for the ways to make your offer the most competitive, the most compelling, and win the day more often. Offer the right price. Consider as-is offers rather than conventional inspections. Offer as little financing, that is, put down as much cash as you can, and or waive the appraisal contingency. Be flexible on your closing and occupancy dates, and write a love letter. Tell the sellers how much you love their house, how much you're going to take care of it, how excited you are for it. And that will often help you win the day. We look forward to helping you with that. Don't hesitate to call us anytime at 804-372-SOLD. That's 804-372-7653. Again, I'm Shannon Harton, Associate Broker with the Harton team at Nest Realty in Richmond, Virginia. Look forward to seeing you again soon.